Yang salah.
Suara tidak terdengar, Mas. Masalah.
Yang salah. Halo.
Halo.
Udah. Ya.
Terdengar. Oke, baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Selamat pagi Bapak Ibu semuanya. Selamat pagi Bapak Leo Jil dari Kedutaan Besar Amerika. Selamat pagi Ibu Ira Fitarta. And good morning juga Mr. Razi, good morning Mr. Justin, Mas Fedi Santoso selaku moderator pada diskusi film kita pada pagi hari ini, Ahmad Ubaidillah Al-Bantani selaku Direktur Pusat Studi Pesantren, dan juga semua para peserta yang ikut bergabung di dalam Zoom meeting atau yang menyaksikan melalui live streaming di Facebook maupun di YouTube. Oke, pagi ini kita akan mendiskusikan film Hamtramck, film yang digarap oleh Mr. Razi dan Justin, dan tentu saja dalam bedah film ini akan dimuat oleh sinias dari Indonesia, dari Yogyakarta tepatnya Mas Fedi Santoso. Namun sebelum kita memasuki diskusi, sebelumnya mari kita dengarkan terlebih dahulu sambutan dari Direktur Pusat Studi Pesantren Kiai Ahmad Ubaidillah. Kepada Kiai Ahmad Ubaidillah dipersilakan.
Terima kasih banyak Kang Salahuddin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Yang kami hormati Pak Leo dan Mbak Fira serta teman-teman dari Kedutaan Besar Amerika Serikat, para pembicara, speaker, Brother Razi Jeffrey and Justin Feldman, and also host Fedi Santoso. He is one of the Indonesian cineasts from the pesantren background. Thank you so much. Pesan acara movie talk series ini merupakan sebuah kegiatan yang diselenggarakan oleh Pusat Studi Pesantren bersama Kedutaan Besar Amerika Serikat, yang alhamdulillah dalam banyak program Pusat Studi Pesantren banyak disupport oleh Kedutaan Besar Amerika Serikat. Oleh karena itu, terima kasih banyak Pak Leo dan Mbak Fira atas perkenan kerjasama ini. Saya kira ini memang movie talk series ini merupakan harapan kami, salah satu program yang dirancang oleh Pusat Studi Pesantren sebagai jadi ada tren di dunia pesantren hari ini, produksi film itu menjadi bagian yang juga tidak terpisahkan dari aktivitas para santri, yang khususnya yang terlibat di dalam proses pembuatan film maupun film dokumenter. Dan hari ini juga kegiatan dakwah di dunia pesantren, salah satu instrumen yang digunakan adalah film. Saya kira ini menjadi sangat tepat acara semacam ini untuk selain juga memberikan pengetahuan dan informasi tentang film Hamtramck yang diproduksi oleh Razi Jafri dan Justin Feldman, karena ini kebetulan film tentang sebuah miniatur harmoni di sebuah kota kecil di negara bagian Michigan di Amerika Serikat. Saya kira ini menarik untuk memberikan gambaran tentang multikulturalisme di sebuah kota yang mayoritas adalah Muslim, dan kehidupan politik demokratisnya juga banyak sekali diceritakan tentang sukses story atau best practice yang ada di film Hamtramck ini. Nah, oleh karena itu teman-teman peserta, saya kira dimanapun berada dan dari latar belakang apapun yang menyimak acara ini, saya kira ini juga tidak hanya sekedar mengisi kegiatan Ramadan dengan aktivitas yang sangat baik, tapi juga kita akan sama-sama belajar dari Justin dan dari Razi tentang tidak hanya tentang bagaimana memproduksi narasi dan skenario yang baik, tetapi juga mengetahui tentang detail sebuah film. Nah, oleh karena itu kami juga mengundang Kang Fedi untuk memandu diskusi ini supaya ada proses diskusi yang sangat menarik, karena Mas Fedi juga banyak berkecimpung di dunia film. Yang terakhir, acara ini juga disupport oleh Cak Maskur Manajemen. Terima kasih Cak Maskur dan tim. Mudah-mudahan setelah acara ini supaya acara ini juga bisa dinikmati oleh banyak orang. Kita akan sama-sama dengan tim Pusat Studi Pesantren men-share, mendiseminasi hasil diskusi ini supaya tidak hanya kita yang bisa belajar dari Justin dan Razi, tetapi juga banyak kolega kita yang nanti akan belajar melihat secara langsung proses diskusinya. Terima kasih kepada para peserta yang sudah hadir, meskipun belum banyak ini, tetapi saya kira tidak apa-apa. Kita rekam acara ini sehingga kita bisa juga share rekaman Zoom maupun link live streamingnya. Saya kira itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Once again, thank you so much Pak Leo and Razi Jafri and Justin. I'm sorry I'm speaking in Indonesian language, but we helped by the interpreter, so you can get the point that I addressed just now. Thank you so much. That's all. Saya kembalikan kepada moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Ki Ahmad Ubaidillah, Direktur Pusat Studi Pesantren yang telah memberikan sambutannya. Berikutnya kami persilakan Bapak Leo Jill dari Kedutaan Besar Amerika untuk memberikan sambutan. Silakan.
Thank you and welcome everyone. Selamat pagi, selamat datang. I'm Leo Juk. I'm the Assistant Cultural Affairs Officer at the Embassy here in Jakarta. I work with Pira on our cultural programs and film programs, especially programs like these. This one sponsored by the American Film Showcase of the U.S. State Department, which is produced by the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts. So this program is a terrific way for us to not only have this amazing opportunity to welcome filmmakers to Indonesia in a virtual format today, but hopefully in person on the ground here in Indonesia someday very soon. But also AFS, the American Film Showcase, is a means of empowering local filmmakers with tools to tell their own stories. And we're extremely grateful for the partnership of Pak Ubaid and Pusat Studi Pesantren on this program and many other programs that we've worked on together to reach an audience for whom I hope this will be a meaningful discussion. And it's exciting to know that in the pesantren in Indonesia, filmmaking and the idea of creating narratives and telling stories about communities is developing and growing. And I think that this film, Hamtramck USA, is a really perfect example of storytelling about Muslim community, about democratic communities, and about diversity and the power and the importance of diversity in our communities, in our countries. It's always interesting to note that America and Indonesia, the United States and Indonesia, are the second and third largest democracies in the world, and we're extremely diverse countries, and our national mottos, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika and E Pluribus Unum, can be translated to mean the same thing: unity in diversity. And so again, with huge thanks to Pusat Studi Pesantren and to Razi Jaffrey and Justin Feltman for joining this program today. I hope everyone enjoys this discussion, learns something meaningful for themselves, but also shares it with their community more widely. Thank you again. Yeah.
Baik, terima kasih juga Pak Leo atas sambutannya dalam acara bedah film pada pagi hari ini. Para peserta yang ada di Zoom maupun yang menyaksikan via live streaming, saya kira kita tidak sabar ya untuk mengikuti jalannya diskusi film Hamtramck dengan dua narasumber keren dari Amerika, Mr. Razi Jaffrey dan Mr. Justin Feltman, dan akan dipandu oleh sinias muda dari pesantren, Kang Fedi Santoso. Oleh karena itu, waktu kami berikan kepada Kang Fedi Santoso selaku moderator untuk memandu jalannya diskusi film pada pagi hari ini. Silakan, kami persilakan kepada Kang Fedi Santoso.
Oke, terima kasih. Thank you everyone. Thank you Razi and Justin for making this very beautiful film. It was an honor for me as well as moment that me nervous because this my first time leading film discussion in English. Maybe this moment start with a question: how do you know each other and how long have you been making film together, Justin and Razi?
Hello, selamat pagi, assalamualaikum. So Justin and I, we met in the fall of 2016. As many of you know what was happening around that time. We had a very controversial US election that took place with the election of Donald Trump. And so at that time, there was a lot of anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant sentiment that was coming from, this campaign. And so, as a response, Justin and I, we came together and decided to work on a film together. And we were both interested in making a documentary about this very unique city, Hamtramck, Michigan. It's America's first Muslim majority city, and it's an immigrant majority city. And so we realized that there was an opportunity to tell a new story or a different story about Muslims in America and about democracy, about civic engagement, and about the immigrant communities who are involved in American politics. And so that's how we met.
How many films have you done together, Razi and Justin?
Well, this is our first film that we did together.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
we're.
Oh, sorry, Razi.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I was going to say we had met because I was working on a project about the 2016 election, and Razi kind of helped introduce me to a lot of people in the local community there in Michigan. And so we had kind of really gotten along really well. And so we just knew that we wanted to make a project right after that election together. And so because we had worked so well together on the one that I was working on. And so I thought that it would be just the perfect partnership, and it turned out to be. I think, right away, although this is our first film together, right away, it felt like we had been already working together for a long time. We had really great chemistry together, really kind of, I think meshed well. I think especially when you're looking for a co-director, you don't want someone who shares all the same, vision and talent for things. So it was nice to have someone that really could help complement what I brought to the table and fill some of those gaps, both in information and in skill.
How long was the process of making this film, Razi and Justin?
So the election was in 2017, and we filmed pretty much the whole year. You know, basically after the 2016 election ended, I gave Razi my camera. I said, just start shooting. I'll move there once the election season really starts picking up. And so he filmed a lot of different events, a lot of the kind of more slice of life aspects that are seen in the film. And then I had moved up there. We had filmed for the rest of the election campaign season, and then the last scene, the inauguration of the new candidates or the new officers, whoever won the election. That was like January 4th or something like that. It was that first weekend in January of 2018. And then we had edited the film through 2018 and doing some pickup shots here and there of anything that we felt like we missed or wanted to kind of get more information on. And then 2020, we got into South by Southwest.
What are the difficult and thing you most excited about making this film, Razi and Justin?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What are your difficult and thing you most excited about making this film?
Yes, you know, there were many challenges when we were making the film. I think maybe I'll start with the things that we were excited about. I think, you know, there's a very unique story that we knew that we could tell by telling the story about Hamtramck. There'd never been a story made about this kind of community before. Most of the stories that we see about Muslims in the media have to do with terrorism or national security. And so we wanted to tell a story that's a positive story, but also focusing on the contributions of the Muslim community to the American democratic process. So I think, you know, among the many challenges that we had was there were some challenges in making the film itself in terms of its production. It's a lot of work, you know, to make a film. And so we spent, as Justin just pointed out, we started in really the idea formed at the end of 2016. Then we started filming in 2017. And then we started editing in 2018. We finished the film in 2019. So you can see the years are going by. And throughout that whole time, we are trying to raise money for the project as well, fundraising. That was a big challenge for us too. So also when you're making a documentary, you cannot predict the outcome of the story. So you do not know what will happen. And so Justin and I, we just we're ready for any outcome to happen. But also it creates some challenges because you cannot plan for what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
Maybe Justin, you can add to that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think the answer always is with filmmakers is finance, right? Like that's always the biggest struggle is trying to, you know, figure out the budget, raise funds. But beyond that, you know, kind of building off of what Razi is saying is, you know, can't predict the outcome, but you're also kind of like the story is unfolding ahead of you, and we really had to try to focus our attention. But Hamtramck is only 2 square miles, but it's packed full of things to do and things to see. And there's so many interesting people that we could have followed or tried to follow. And, you know, so it just kind of was like really trying to focus was a bit of a challenge at times, just because it's such a rich community in a lot of ways, at least like culturally speaking, and like, you know, just so vibrant when you're there.
Do you have plan to follow up this film, Justin and Razi?
Not with another Hamtramck, not like a sequel. You know, they definitely are in a fascinating town, and there's many films that you could make about the city. We focused on the politics because I think our idea was kind of formed out of the presidential election, but that's far from the only story that you could tell in this town. We've talked about making other projects together, and definitely do want to work together, but it would not be about Hamtramck specifically.
Okay. What did you for the film campaigns? How you market this film and who your intent audience?
Yeah, very good question. I think I'll just start and then maybe Justin can chime in because this is a very good question, Betty. As Justin mentioned before, we finished the film in 2020 or at the end of 2019. And the first film festival that we were accepted to is South by Southwest. And that film festival was supposed to take place in March of 2020. And as we all know, because the whole world experienced something that we never experienced together like this before, was the early part of the COVID-19 pandemic. So Justin and I, we were getting very excited. We had just received a big grant going into the South by Southwest Film Festival from the Ford Foundation. And so we were really excited to go to South by Southwest and pitch the film to distributors, to broadcasters, and sales agents, and try to network and meet people at the festival. But I believe South by Southwest was probably one of the first major film festivals that was canceled because of COVID-19. So I'm going to go back to your other question about the challenges. We had a lot of challenges with COVID-19 because we lost a lot of, I guess, opportunities with the film because these festivals, they're like a marketplace, like a bazaar. So you're going there to sell your film, to market your film. We hired a marketing company to create some materials for us. Also, we hired a graphic designer. And so our plan was we wanted to have a party at South by Southwest also. So a lot of those things were canceled. So, but, we had to work around that. And one of the things that happened was the festivals starting in, I think, July and later in the summer started going online. And so we had some opportunities to market the film through the festivals there. We had a broadcast agreement that was part of one of the grants that we received earlier. And so we knew that we were going to end up on public television in the United States. And so it was just a matter of how are we going to distribute the film beyond the television broadcast. And so that became a big challenge. And so we eventually found a distributor, Grasshopper Films, and we worked with them, to get distribution for the film, but we're still hoping to have some international distribution for the film. So I think, 2020 was kind of a difficult year for us.
Yeah.
A lot of things that we would have marketed the film for distribution, both in the US and North America and around the world, it got kind of delayed at that time because of COVID-19.
Are you planning to do more films together, or you have individual project coming up, maybe in Indonesia with me?
Oh, we would love to visit Indonesia and meet you. But yeah, Justin and I, we are certainly planning some other projects together. So yeah, we have plans to work together in the future.
Pitch us, Betty, pitch us an idea and we'll come. Yeah.
Yes, maybe you have some good idea for us to collaborate.
Yeah. I am cukup enough interesting about this film because I have a plan to make a film, make a documentary film about pemilu in Indonesia 2024.
Cool. That's awesome.
Do you have suggestions and tips for Indonesian filmmaker on how to highlight certain issue, religious, cultural, and difference, etc. Justin and
Can you repeat the question, Betty?
you have suggestions and tips for Indonesian filmmakers on how to highlight a certain issue, religious, culture, differences, and extra. Maybe for me.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's some things that I think are very universal, you know, in terms of how to tell a story. And I think also even the desire to tell stories, it's like such a big part of the human experience. It's how we preserve our culture. It's how we, you know, progress our culture and pass it on to the future generations. One of the things I think, you know, I can share with you, with the audience that's there, and maybe Justin can add some of his own advice and wisdom too. But before Justin and I made the Hamtramck documentary, neither of us had a lot of experience. You know, he had more experience than I did, but I actually changed my career. I used to be an engineer. That's what I studied in college first. And right before I met Justin, I changed my career and I was developing myself as a photographer and photojournalist. And so, but I think one of the biggest things I learned working with Justin is you don't need a very sophisticated equipment to start making a film. You can just really start making a film with anything. I mean, the tool that we all have in our pocket, you know, a cell phone.
Yeah.
This is the main tool that you need to start making a documentary. And actually, I can give you guys one really amazing recommendation for a documentary film. It's called Midnight Traveler.
Yeah.
Midnight Traveler. And the documentary film is about an Afghani refugee family that leaves Afghanistan and tries to enter Europe. And the whole film is shot on 3 cell phones.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to share this example that you do not have to wait to have the perfect equipment or the perfect you know, studio. You can begin working on your documentary with the tools that you already have. The other thing that I think I really appreciate about documentary filmmaking is collaboration and working in teams. And this is something Justin was speaking about earlier, is that we developed a very strong collaboration because it's not because we are similar, actually because Justin and I are very different in terms of our abilities, experiences, and skills, and even our personalities are quite different. So I think, you know, we have this, you know, idea that opposites work well together, and it was proven in our collaboration. So the last piece of advice I'll share is if you can find somebody who's a good collaborator, because films are really, really labor-intensive projects. It can take many years to make a film. And so it's really nice to have a partner or a team that you can work with to make a film come to life. So to summarize, I think the 2 things I would say is use the materials that you have. So if you have a cell phone, then you're a filmmaker. You can start making a film. And the second thing is to find a good team or collaborators to work with. And I'll pass it to Justin to share some advice.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with what Razi's saying and kind of build off it. I think too with what Razi was saying of, you know, opposites can work together nicely, is that you know, respect your collaborators. You know, the reason why Razi and I work well is because we both respect each other and respect each other's visions and opinions. And that would extend also to who you're making the documentaries about, is, you know, make sure you're always leading with respect and appreciation for them, and know that, you know, you may be an expert in a field, but they're also an expert in the field, and like, you know when to step back and kind of let them lead you. They're going to know more about their lives and where and where to maybe lead you a little bit than you will. I mean, you know, it's you're collaborating with the people that you're documenting as well. So it's important to lead with respect with them, especially if you're not, you know, if it's someone outside of your own community. I think that's also very important, is to always be respectful and always, you know, acknowledge their, you know, opinions or knowledge that they bring to the table. And yeah, I think with what Razi's saying is getting started is a big point of it. And also within getting started is review your footage right away. Don't wait. You know, it's you know what you got and like understand what you got and start trying to edit together pieces. When you do that, you're actually knowing that the materials you have captured and what you still need to capture. If you wait until after you're done filming, you're not actually going to know, and then you're going to feel like, oh man, I missed all these other things that would have been important, but now the moment's gone. You know, so it's the best decision for your filmmaking, but it's also the best decision financially as well, because if you have to go back and shoot things again, that gets pretty expensive, and you know, we're all trying to make by on tight budgets, so definitely want to always try to avoid more expenses wherever possible.
Yes, I agree with you. A film is a collective creativity for all. Mungkin dari teman-teman ada yang juga ingin bertanya kepada Razi dan Justin, dipersilakan. Halo teman-teman.
Hi, Fedi. Hi everyone, I'm Pira from the US Embassy. Saya Pira dari Kedutaan Amerika. So actually, I have some questions from people that are watching in the live streaming. So I shared the live streaming with some of our contacts, and they send the questions to me directly. So asking me to ask Razi and Justin on the film. So if I may share the questions with Razi and Justin.
Yes, please.
So one of the questions is, how has the film been received overall? I mean, you also mentioned about there were probably negative perceptions on Muslim and immigrants in the US. So after the movie launch, how is it? How is the situation? Is it any changes after the people watching this movie, American people, I mean?
I think the reception has been pretty good. You know, when we were early on in the festivals, when they're all online, it might have been a little tough to really get feedback, but people would sometimes tweet at us or leave us messages on Facebook. And, you know, once the PBS broadcast happened, we got a lot more feedback. And now that we've done a few like in-person film festivals, panels like this, or like educational screenings as well, we've actually gotten to get some pretty good feedback, and it's all been pretty positive. I think you know, I think what people appreciated most about the film too was that we just let the community speak for itself, and they felt like they had a much more intimate experience with the community that makes Hamtramck. And I think that there was a great appreciation for that, and a great appreciation for those that I think we're doing some honest soul searching during these campaigns to kind of, you know, really wanted to help their community in earnest. Razi.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, there's you know, there's a general appreciation for multiculturalism in America. I think most Americans want and appreciate a diverse population. It's, I think, one of the biggest blessings of being in the United States is our diversity. So I think, you know, our film, one of the things that it really celebrates is the diversity in these unique communities. But the thing is that, Hamtramck, while it's very unique in a lot of ways, because we have, many people from Yemen and Bangladesh and Bosnia who make up most of the Muslims in Hamtramck. We have many cities in America that have other kinds of diversity, like, many Chinese Americans and Korean Americans live there, or African Americans or Latino Americans that live in these cities. And so many cities in America are changing. So I think one of the things that our film allows audiences to do is imagine their own communities and to think about how their communities will change, because we all have to live together. We all have to live in peace and build solidarity with each other and support each other. And Hamtramck is not a perfect, place, but it is working really hard on developing itself as a multicultural city. And I think this kind of experiment, the multicultural experiment, which many countries around the world are struggling with right now, how to accept new people that are coming into their country, whether they're immigrants or refugees, or whatever it is, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from Hamtramck's experience. And I think a lot of people appreciate that. And, we hope that people continue to watch the film, because it can lead to some really, really sincere conversations about diversity and multiculturalism. So overall, I think the reception of the film has been very positive for these reasons.
Thank you for that. So you would say that the film itself, it's not really about, even though it's covering like an election in that city, but it's not about a political issue, but it's more about multiculturalism. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's a good observation. The election allows us to enter Hamtramck. It allows us to anchor the storyline, of the city, and it gives us a good framework to follow a year in the life of the city. But it's certainly about much more than just the election. It's about immigrant communities fighting for their right to represent themselves. It's about the tensions and complexities of multiculturalism. So it covers a lot of issues, but the elections allow us an entrance into Hamtramck.
There's actually a follow-up question on that. Was there any objections or resentment from people of Hamtramck in you filming their community?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, the one thing that, in the film, there's one of the candidates that early on said that he didn't want us to film his campaign. But, as we talked to him over time, I think he warmed up to the idea. I think, going back to my advice about, really respecting those that you're filming, is that I think that Razi and I were always very conscious of how we wanted to portray the town. I think some people may have been, maybe suspicious is too strong of a word, but people were kind of curious maybe what we were doing, and cautious about what we were doing and why we were doing it. But I think over time, when they see us every day and they see that, we're doing this and they understand our passion and love for the town, I think they couldn't help but appreciate our place in it. Maybe sometimes annoyed that everything they would go to in town was filmed, but I think we definitely made friends with pretty much everybody there.
Yeah, but we really didn't have any resistance from anybody in the film or in the community against the film, or that they didn't want to participate. I think there, as Justin said, there was a lot of curiosity because when you live in a place, that place is just normal to you. You don't think of it as different or unique. But if I tell you right now that there's a city in America, it has a Muslim majority population, even people in Indonesia would think that's really interesting, and certainly people in America, they find it interesting too. So I think, there has been over the years, a lot of coverage, both domestic and international coverage in the media and in journalism about Hamtramck. And so in some ways, the city was used to the cameras being there because it's kind of a unique situation in the United States. And so I think once they learned that we had good intentions about showing the film or showing the city in a truthful way, then they were really supportive of us.
Thank you. So I still have a couple of more questions, but I think I return it to Fedi first. Fedi, masih ada pertanyaan dari yang lain mungkin?
Can I ask?
Ya,
Mas Fedi? Ya.
mungkin dari teman-teman lain juga dipersilakan.
Saya mungkin, Mas Fedi.
Ya. Silakan.
Baik. Thank you. Justin and Razi just mentioned about the financial support. So for me, Justin and Razi is like the representations of the independent filmmaker who doesn't have huge financial support like industrial movie. For instance, Hollywood and even Bollywood in India and in industrial movie in Indonesia, etc. So how you deal with that situation? This is the first question, and the second, the Hamtramck, as Bapira mentioned, I think is the movie which highlighting the sensitive issue. Like in America, I remember the Malcolm X movie and Walk Out. I'm sure you still remember the Walk Out movie about the Chicano in US. It's a very sensitive issue in US. Not only religious harmony and social harmony in Hamtramck. So, is there any independent filmmaker in US like you, Justin and Razi, who concerned about this sensitive issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think
you.
the first point about the financing and independent films, this is probably the biggest issue for filmmakers. It's really challenging to make a film without financial support. And in the US, we have different avenues for raising money for films. There's crowdfunding. You can ask your relatives and your family for donations, to help you make your film. And then we have private foundations that give grants. You can apply for grants, and if you get lucky, then you can get money, for your film to make the film. But these grants are very, very competitive. So sometimes there's hundreds of projects that are applying for maybe 2 or 3 grants, so it's really tough, very competitive. The other things, they are trying to approach a production company and trying to seek a co-production for your project. And so maybe approaching, I think everybody knows Netflix, approaching Netflix and trying to do a co-production for your film. So, there's different options in terms of how to do it, but for independent filmmakers, there isn't like a lot of money. You have to try to come up with it on your own somehow, asking friends and family, asking relatives, maybe having some kind of small fundraising event. Crowdfunding is another option. Many films have been made through crowdfunding platforms like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, these kind of platforms as well. One other platform, we actually used one platform for crowdfunding is called LaunchGood. And I think you have it in Indonesia, but it's a crowdfunding platform for Muslim projects. So it's called LaunchGood. So we used LaunchGood to raise money for our film. We had a mix. We had some of our own money we put in the project. We had some grants, some crowdfunding. So we had a mix of different resources.
Yeah. I think a lot of what we did was grants. And you know, to your second question about grants or about filmmakers that really kind of lead strongly into social issues and kind of address some of these things, social justice. That actually is really hot within grant writing. Is, you know, a majority of films that grants in the U.S. give funds to is ones that are dealing with and addressing social issues and social justice, concepts around equality, environmentalism. These are kind of the ones that a lot of the grant writing really aims for. Some of them more like, we'll say like, what was that show called? Tiger King. Like that would be from a production company because it's more like entertainment based. But yeah, the grant writing process is definitely led by kind of social justice related causes in the films.
Yeah, we have many documentaries today that cover the issue of racism because this is a big challenge that we're experiencing in the United States. For all of our history in the United States, this has been one of our major social issues. And so the funders, the grant giving organizations, they're really interested in how to solve this issue and to create some positive stories that can help change this problem in the US.
Thank you, Razin, Justin.
Ya, mungkin dari teman-teman lain juga ada yang ingin bertanya kepada Justin dan Razi tentang filmnya, mungkin tentang prosesnya.
Kalau belum ada yang
Looks like
bertanya,
Pira, yeah.
boleh bertanya saya.
Ya,
Okay.
dipersilakan Mbak Wira.
Thank you, Fedi. There are some our contacts that already watched already see the film but unable to join this discussion. One of the things that they ask is for Razi, does your experience as Muslim immigrant influence your creative work? Because I think I see that some of your films related with Islam in America.
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you for asking. You know, just a little bit of my personal background. I'm originally from India. I was born in India and I immigrated to the United States when I was a young child with my family. We moved to Detroit. And so that's a little bit, you know, in terms of my background. And I come from a religious family. And when I went to college, I became involved in campus activism and raising awareness about social causes and social issues. And many of those issues related to Islamophobia and the issues that were affecting our community in a negative way. And so I was involved in what we call here in American universities, the Muslim Students Association, MSA. So many universities in America, we have this organization. And so, of course, my activism became a big part of my identity as a person, as a human being, as a Muslim. You know, I saw my activism as a form of even ibadah. And so, you know, when I became interested in working in films, a lot of that experience was in the front of my mind. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you know, we were really interested in making a documentary that created a different story that was not showing Muslims only as either the perpetrators of terrorism or the victims of terrorism. And so working on Hamtramck, with Justin allowed us to create a new story, a new narrative that we don't get to see often. But I think that my personal identity and my background plays a big role in the work that I want to do, because my community in the United States, we have religious freedom. We're allowed to practice our religion. We can, move and do what we want to do and do what we need to do. And there's many places in America where there's lots of Muslims that live in concentrated areas, like Detroit, where I am, and we have a lot of Muslims in America too. But we also hear about, unfortunately, cases of Islamophobia, cases of racism and prejudice against our community. And so I think, for people like myself who are telling stories about our community, we have a big responsibility to tell the positive story and to tell a story that's more accurate, and tries to help our country become more tolerant and more peaceful through storytelling. I really appreciate this question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, that's actually happening in Indonesia as well. I mean, I'm sure that Fadi and Ubaidillah can echoing me in encourage more Indonesian filmmakers, especially the documentary filmmakers, to portraying a peaceful Muslim, a peaceful Islam, to sort of like have a different perspective of what Islam is. There's a question for Justin as well. The question is there any specific theme for your film that differentiate your work with others, or
No, I mean, different maybe be I don't know if I'd say different, but I would say, the one thing that, like I said, Razi and I wanted to do from the beginning was to really give Hamtramck or Hamtramckans, people who from Hamtramck, a voice through the film. We had felt like a lot of the media coverage had really not given them that opportunity to really speak for themselves. There was a lot of sensationalism, a lot of these ideas around like clash of the civilizations that would be presented in a lot of news reports. I mean, we show that in the film itself. So I think when we were making this film, we really wanted to make sure that we gave the voice and the perspective of the city itself, and at times stepped out of the way. We really wanted to just make an observational film, cinema verite approach. That's something I've always valued in film and documentaries, is that cinema verite approach. Because of that reason, I think it's nice not to have somebody telling you what to think, but allowing you just to observe and draw your own conclusions about it. And that is something, after this film, I hope to continue leading as far as a stylistic choice in my future works as well.
Thank you. Fadi, do you think there is any questions from the others?
Ya, masih mungkin ada pertanyaan lain dari teman-teman. Sebuah film yang sangat interesting.
Ini ada pertanyaan teknikal nih sebenarnya di WhatsApp aku nih, tapi karena saya bukan filmmaker, saya nggak ngerti. Kayak berapa shot yang harus di-cut untuk fit the time frame. So I think this is actually Freddy's questions to ask, because I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't really understand. So there's a technical questions on filmmaking, like because of your filming for about a year there, and so like how many shots that you have to cut in order to fit into the time frame of the 90 minutes?
I couldn't tell you the exact number, but I could tell you that we have 12 terabytes of footage and and an hour and a half of a film. So an overwhelming majority of it You know, like I said, we went and we shot everything we could possibly shoot because we really wanted to cover the whole city. On that 12 terabytes, there's a dozen pretty decent films and pretty good stories on there. And you know, maybe one day Razi and I make a Hamtramck too, and about some of those other stories.
A sequel or a prequel.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a prequel. We start from the beginning.
Yeah.
If it's up to you, how many hours you think the film should be? Using
Very
all
good
the good
question.
shots.
I mean, I always think like 90 minutes is a good for documentary. I mean, if you really need to go to 2 hours, like, you know, go for it. Like, you know, trust yourself. But I think 90 is always a decent rule of thumb.
Yeah, I think our film, like between, you know, 75 and 90 minutes is perfect. We don't need more than that. Yeah.
Okay. Ya, Fedi, silahkan.
Ya, mungkin cukup dari saya. Saya kembalikan ke mungkin ada statement terakhir dari Rezi. You have a closing statement for Indonesian filmmaker or the audience to about a film or your vision or in the future maybe.
Well, you know, I think what I just want to say is we really appreciate the time that the audience has taken to watch the film. It's a real honor for us. You know, we made this film about a really special community in the United States, and it's a very beautiful community, and we never thought that people in Indonesia would get to see the film. We're really happy that this is a possibility for us, and some of it is the, you know, technology that allows us to do that, but we're really amazed that about the impact and the reach of the film. Obviously, Justin and I made the film with very good intentions, where our hope is to create positivity in the world, and we want to create some change in the world. We want to see people love each other more and care about each other more, and to create more peace between countries and between communities. And so we are really grateful for this opportunity to be able to speak with you guys. And, you know, through this kind of experience and speaking to audiences in Indonesia, the world becomes smaller, actually. You know, and we can communicate with each other very easily, you know, when, you know, 5, 10, 20 years ago, this was not possible. So now in Indonesia, a small group of people can understand some of the issues that we're dealing with in this town, you know, in the United States. And so I think this issue of multiculturalism is something that every place in the world is going to have to deal with in the next 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years. We are becoming more and more diverse. So there's a lot of amazing lessons that can be learned from Hamtramck's experience. And I hope that you know, people will continue to watch the film. We love talking about the film. It's a real honor for us to have made the film, and then the honor continues when we get to share the film with others, and we continue to get to talk about it. And I also wanted to thank the Embassy and the American Film Showcase as well for hosting us and organizing this event. And really happy that we could have this special event during Ramadan, you know, as well. It's a really special time where we're reflecting on many of these things, you know, that we're discussing right now, these issues around racism and multiculturalism. So I can't think of a better time for us to be reflecting on ways to improve our societies, ways to improve our communities, than doing it in a time where we're fasting and praying more, and you know, it's just a really good time to do it. So
how about you, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say, you know, going off of what Razi was saying is, you know, thanks for making us a part of your, you know, your Ramadan celebration. Like, I know everyone could do many different things, and so we really appreciate you know, taking the time and watching this film, and you know, kind of thinking about what this community means, not just in an American sense, but what it means around the world in the global sense as well. That was certainly something we had hoped from the beginning that people would appreciate. And like Razi said, we just didn't know that it could also be the countries like Indonesia where you too could appreciate and celebrate this film and this community. So thank you so much for supporting the film and spending time with us tonight or this morning for you.
Yeah, thank you very much for all. And mungkin saya kembalikan ke pembawa acara. Dari kami cukup. Terima kasih. Mohon maaf jika banyak kesalahan. Saya kembalikan ke pembawa acara.
Baik, terima kasih Mas Fedi, juga Mr. Razi dan Justin Feldman atas diskusi pada pagi hari ini. Mungkin ada tambahan closing statement dari Bapak Ahmad Ubaidillah, barangkali selaku Direktur Pusat Hamtramck. Dan Gus Ubaid. Halo Gus Ubaid.
Kelempar deh.
Oh, kelempar.
Kayaknya nggak ada.
Ya. Atau mungkin dari Mbak Pira, Ibu Pira ada.
Oh, itu ada tuh, Mas Ubay.
Ya, mohon maaf tadi kepental sinyalnya. Ya. Gimana, Kang Salap?
Ada closing statement dari Gus Ubaid.
Baik. Baik, terima kasih banyak. Thank you so much. We would like to say to Brother Razi and Justin Feldman, and of course to the U.S. Embassy, which support this kind of program. I'm sure this short movie talk discussion gonna be not only interesting for the people who work on film, but also for the people who interested to see the live discourses and social discourses in the U.S. That already covered by Justin and Razi in the Hamtramck film. Hope even the participants who joined in the Zoom is just a few people, but once again, as I mentioned in the beginning, this message should be spreaded, should be delivered to many people. So we're gonna disseminate this link, of course, to all friends and to the college, so they can see the discussion process that mentioned by Razi and Justin. So once again, thank you to all the participants who join on live streaming in Facebook and YouTube platform of Cak Maskur Management, and also on a Zoom. Thank you Mbak Pira, Kang Pedi. Mudah-mudahan kita bisa kembali kolaborasi dalam acara yang lain, terutama mungkin Justin and Razi can come to Indonesia and make a documentary movie in Indonesia about something. Thank you so much, Razi and Justin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Selamat tinggal. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Setelah dari Pak Ahmad Ubaidillah, barangkali dari Mbak Pira ada yang ingin disampaikan.
Terima kasih Kang Salap. Dari kami, dari Kedutaan Amerika, berterima kasih atas kerjasama antara Pondok Pusat Studi Pesantren dan Cak Maskur organizer ya, manajemen. Begitu juga dengan terima kasih dengan Mas Fedi yang sudah membantu menjadi moderator dan semua yang telah hadir di hari ini. So I also would like to say thank you for Razi and Justin for spending your evening with us this morning. We really hope that we can invite you to come to Indonesia, do a program, do a masterclass, you meet with here friends in Indonesia, and hopefully that this is just a beginning of our relationship, that we can do more later
Inshallah.
together. Yeah, inshallah. And yeah, thank you so much for everything today.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Mbak Fira. Saya kira kita sudah berada di penghujung acara ya. Sebelum ditutup, apakah kita memiliki sesi untuk foto bersama?
Oh iya, betul juga ya. Ya, Razinya udah left.
Oh, udah.
Nggak apa-apa, nanti diambil dari itu aja, dari recordingnya ya.
Dari recording.
We can take the photo from the recording then. Okay.
Oke, kalau
Okay,
begitu,
ya.
kira kita akhiri pertemuan atau diskusi kita pada pagi hari ini. Saya terima kasih dan mohon kekurangan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bye-bye everyone.